I am Robert the Bruce, your king.
There's a look of war in your eyes. You really must learn to control your temper, Robert. It'll be your death.
Any man who breaks the head of Robert the Bruce shall receive the sum of 50 gold pieces.
You'd fight him to the death, our king.
He's no king of mine.
Who is he? It's Robert the Bruce.
This is my younger niece. There's my boy.
I shall leave here soon.
You'll leave when you're well.
Healing me is treason in these lands.
We'll find him here! Start tying low!
When someone comes to kill the king, we'll have to fight.
We have known Scotland clutched in the grip of a mighty hand. Now we'll set her free. Is that not worth fighting for?
What if he raises an army? What if our lords side with him again?
10,000 wives, 10,000 mothers. We need to know our men died for something.
The sky burns with those hearts we have loved. Do not lose hope. It is the dawn of a new day.
So I'm here at the Edinburgh International Film Festival, and with me is the cast and crew of Robert the Bruce, which is Richard Gray, the director, Angus Macfadyen, who plays Robert the Bruce, and Zach McGowan. So thanks for being here, and thanks for a marvelous film.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it because the film is quite different from Braveheart. It's not big fights, no big swords or soldiers. It's just an intimate story, and more focusing on the people who made Robert the Bruce the King of Scotland. So, what was your approach to that story?
The idea was that the interest for me was to start this story at the lowest ebb of this man who's royalty. He's European royalty. He's been at the top. He's owned castles. He's got a beautiful wife, children, as much opulence as he wants, and he's attempted to become the king of his own country out of sheer ambition. And he's fallen from greatness, which is, you start with that, and you're at the lowest ebb, and where he basically has lost everything. He's crawling into a cave, and something happens in that cave. This is a great myth of Robert the Bruce and the spider, which I've always wanted to tell, because it was something which all the Scottish children, are told about this when they're very young. And so I was always like, what actually happened in that cave? There's a spider in there, and the spiders, in modern psychology, is the symbol of schizophrenia. So I was like, okay, so we've got a talking spider. There's voices in his head, and if there's one thing that's worse than death, because this guy wants to die, it's madness. And that, whatever that impulse is, and it's something which is a Celtic, there's a Celtic thing in there too. It's a Celtic theme. That madness pushes him out towards his destiny and into the arms of this very, very humble family of crofters who've got nothing. They survive on pittance, in these brutal conditions. And so that's the setup of the story. Stripped of all of the battling, the English, all of that stuff. Like, let's just get to the heart of it.
Yeah. I think I forgot to mention that you also co-wrote the story.
That's right.
So it's the same role you played almost 25 years ago in Braveheart.
Yes.
How long did it take to make this film?
13 years.
13 years, yeah. Quite a long time. Yeah. Why did it take so long?
I think there was a reason for it, which I didn't understand at the time. Was basically, I wrote it in 2006, 2007. We could have made it, but if we'd gotten the funds and made a pretty decent movie, and it would have come out and gone. But there's a sort of I feel now there's a divine hand in things, because the timing of it is so good right now. And for many years, I couldn't see the bigger picture. You know, I was like Robert the Bruce in utter despair by the end, not believing I would ever make this film. I'd given up on it, and suddenly this man comes along and said, "Let's do this, mate," because, you know, I have some really good memories from a movie I once saw.
That's right.
So how did you come on board, Richard?
So Anna Hutchinson, who plays Morag in the movie, was making a film with Angus in the UK, and he was talking to her about this script that he had, and obviously, you know, Braveheart was a big film in Australia, everywhere obviously, but I was 15 when that came out. It was very impactful on me. And so when Anna said, you know, Angus has got this script and I love it, you need to read it, I was very scared to read it, because how your expectation is high, also you wonder whether you can do it, or if it's bad, you know, what are you going to say? But it turned out the story that it is and what it concentrates on was so beautiful and perfect that it just made sense, and particularly in the current climate, to concentrate on a widow and orphans and a fallen king that's, you know, having this moment where he might give up, and to have bad guys that aren't bad guys, and real people, and have Scots versus Scots. You know, there's not an Englishman in sight. All of that made the story interesting and original. And so 4 months later, we were making the movie, and it felt meant to be.
I really feel that when I was watching the movie. Since you said it was 30 years in the making, how much did the story change over the years? Is it exactly what you had in mind 30 years ago, or?
No, I had a much more of a historical epic, which spanned the continents. We had the Pope in Avignon, who was a puppet pope who had been installed. We had the French king, Philippe le Bel, who was massacring the Crusaders and stealing all their money. We had the Crusaders escaping, coming to fight with Robert the Bruce. We had the shenanigans going on in England, and I couldn't find the money because it was just too much money to. So in dismantling it and stripping it clean and ending with the heart of the story, and then we actually ended up with a far more emotional film, you know, something which we actually were far more happy with. And also that we dealt with, you know, we also stripped it to basically Scots within Scots, and so Zach is playing the, you know, it's not, the villain is not an Englishman, the villain is not even a villain. He's a man who lost his brothers fighting for this idiot, this aristocratic idiot. And so he justifiably carries all this anger in him. And that anger is coming after Robert the Bruce. And so it's like it's like high noon in a way, you know?
It is. Well, that's what when I read it, I was like, well, one, you know, Braveheart's my favorite movie of all time. This man, legend, been trying to make a movie with Richie forever, and timing and schedules never worked out. And I heard about the script, got it sent to me. I was like in Canada shooting Damnation, about like 2 days to get on a plane to go play the Scorpion King for Universal in South Africa. And I read it and I was like, this is awesome. And then I called, I was like, you're gonna make this we're gonna be able to shoot this in Montana? He was like, yeah. And I was like, it was one of those things like when you in Hollywood, you know, a lot of times you get like an expectation and a hope, but you try to temper it because you're like, this isn't gonna happen. I don't want to disappoint myself. Yeah. But even in that, because like you're a crazy actor, you just start working on it in your mind, and you start working on the elements that are gonna need to be ready on the day when we go, which is gonna come faster than you think. Yeah. Always. And I did. And literally, I got home from South Africa, went to Christmas with my family for like 2 days, got on a plane and was there with them, literally in between Christmas and New Year's in Montana, and rocked up and saw the croft and everyone kind of there, and I was like, this is happening. This is really happening. And to me, what's so important about that story is like you're saying, stories are always about royalty, about the you know, like history, right? History doesn't tell you what it was like for a farm family on the side of a mountain in the Highlands. History tells you the major players' names, like Brando, who I plays. He's not someone who's going to show up in the history books. No. He's, you know, the sheriff of a small town who lost his family during wars, who was in love with a woman, you know.
Casualties of war.
Casualties of war. And that's, I think, really what's lost, because in the end, that's, I mean, those are the people, like, that's the experience of war in times. It is really by, you know, kind of regular folk. We just rarely see that. And I mean, I've always kind of considered myself, like, I come from blue collar stock and all that. And that's, I think, what really, I mean, it's what really resonated with me. I was like, man, this is, you're going to see how this affects them, and you're also going to put the king in their world. You know, and because that's what so many leaders, they don't understand what the people are dealing with, and I think that this movie just really resonates. That, I mean, that last, I mean, spoiler alert, that last line of text on screen about how he lived with his army and all that. It really is a hugely important element. Two things, and I mean, like, don't we all wish that, you know, that our, you know, like, our leaders, if they were going to send someone to war, would be living? I mean, you know, like, my brother served in the wars recently, and, you know, I thought a lot about that. Like, luckily my brother, you know, didn't get killed in the wars, but I wondered about what, I mean, I've got all my emotions and feelings from those things anyway. What if you added on top of that he actually died, and then all of a sudden I come face to face with the person who sent them there, and so, like, to me, that's,
and you get a shot at it.
And you get a shot at it.
You get a shot at it.
The title on them. Right?
You get to go to the histories. Well, actually, they might not. They might say, no, it was a noble who was there, just exactly passing that day, and you'd be like, motherfucker, they took my glory.
Exactly. And so I think that's, I mean, that's what I.
And also to play, he played a lot of villains, but there's nothing about Brando that's villainous. His brother is being killed. This guy has lost war after war. He's trying to help his, you know, sister-in-law and their children.
Yeah.
This guy is losing, and these lands are not aligned with him. So he's the enemy to him, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, it actually makes sense that Robert the Bruce is the enemy, because he is foreign royalty on Scottish lands. By what right do you even come here pretending to be king? You keep saying the pretender king, this foreigner coming around pretending, what's he to us?
So I'm just really, like, I'm really excited that it seems to be resonating in Scotland the way that I hoped it would, because
good timing.
It is.
Timing is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, pretender kings.
And there's no Englishman in this film. It's Scots versus Scots, and, you know, we're always talking about unite the clans, and 700 years later, we're talking about the same thing.
Exactly.
That's what really, actually, the greatest thing is the education I've been able to receive on Scottish history through it all. Angus knows, you know, a great deal, and it's just really as someone of Irish heritage, it really resonates with me. And I mean, as someone who grew up in America, and the idea of freedom being, you know, so interwoven into my culture, you know, and to see, you know, what happens here, it's very impactful, and it's always better when a movie actually means something in reality rather than just it sits alone in a fictitious world.
Absolutely. Did you have any connections to Scotland before making the film?
Well, this is my first time in Scotland. Like I said, my father's Irish, and Sheriff Wallace assures me that the McGowan clan moved from Scotland to Ireland as Galglass or something during, you know, so that he actually said that it's quite possible many of your relatives were actually in Scotland during this time. Is what he said. And I went, well, I didn't know that. So I used that. Learn something new every day.
There's been another film about Robert the Bruce that's been on Netflix for, I think, about a year or so. What were your first thoughts when you were working 30 years on a film and then another film comes along?
It didn't bother me, because it actually it aroused a certain interest. It opened a portal, as it were, which allowed us to slip in, because if you're making one, there can always be two. Unlike in the movies, like in Highlander, there can only be one. But in our world, in the real world, there can be two, there can be three. You can actually, because there's an interest, you can
You can run with it.
And there's not enough, you know, we can have a superhero movie about the same character every year. There's not enough movies about these Scottish legends. And there can be so many films about Macbeth or Queen Elizabeth. There needs to be more about these Scottish heroes to bring the Scottish history to countries that haven't seen it. But also we knew what type of film they were making, which is a great film, but it's got nothing to do with our film. And all we wanted to do was everybody's reaction to Braveheart that I've ever known is at the end goosebumps and tears and just emotion. And the main focus for us was if we just go deep into the characters and concentrate on the people that were left behind and what they have to work with, that it might arouse a feeling and an emotion, and that's what we went for.
You completely succeeded by doing that.
I appreciate it.
But despite your telling the Scottish story, you didn't get any fundings from Creative Scotland, or so. Is that true?
I can talk to that. We had such a short turnaround, and I just made a film in Montana, and I was sending Angus and Joris Wallace these pictures of Montana because I was scared, will it not look like Scotland? But it turns out Montana looks exactly like Scotland, and Scots have a hard time picking in the movie where is where. And so if you film up in Glencoe and during the Beast from the East, and we filmed up in the Isle of Skye and then down near Stirling, it is uncanny how similar it looks to Montana. So the only way we could get the winter and then the spring that we needed in Scotland was to go in the Montana winter, and then we came to Scotland. And you know, we didn't seek. It's always been interesting to me coming from Australia, where the government puts about 50% into your movie, which is amazing, which keeps our film industry afloat. But a painter doesn't often ask for money to start painting, right? So if we had something special going on, would we not just go for it? The time it takes to get government funding and support is lengthy and long, and I'm sure we would have received support, and I'm sure we'll receive support in the future. It's not something
maybe they can help with advertising.
Exactly. and everybody in Scotland has been so supportive now. And so we just needed to go and make our film.
I think maybe Netflix had come along and just sucked up all of the you know, there weren't even any crumbs left. They really sucked it up good.
Well, I think there's an element to the film that parallels the film. You know, right? You take a king,
underdog.
Underdog, and you know, you throw him in a situation, and there's a lot of that. I mean, this was in Montana in the winter. Pretty rough spot. And, you know, I don't know, no one's wearing hats in this movie. Like, you know, gloves. But there's a lot of times in movies, there's like, you know, there's just different ways you can make a movie. And this way, the heart, you can see the heart of the screen. I mean, no one would have stayed there unless they wanted to stay there. You know?
And Angus, you've always been a vocal supporter of Scottish independence. What do you think the future of Scotland will be like?
I think it's going to be bright and sunny. I think it's coming, a gathering storm, which is going to lead to some beautiful rainbows around here. And it's coming very soon, I believe.
I hope so too. So, you had the world premiere here in Scotland. How important was it to bring the film here to the Scottish people?
Hugely important. It was the major thing we discussed is where we're going to open this, and we both agreed Edinburgh. We come to Edinburgh because this film is for the Scots. It's for Scotland. And we were sort of marveling at the timing with which we were coming out. And also the other big thing for both of us was we wanted to get a deal with distributors where they would open it in the cinemas, because you know the huge thing about Braveheart, which I noticed, was the theatrical experience. And people were in the cinema and they were weeping and they were standing up and shouting freedom. And the SNP were very smart, and they stood outside the cinemas and they handed out their leaflets. And they were a spent force in Scotland at that point, arguably. They were dusty. They'd been trying for independence for decade upon decade, and they were nowhere. And suddenly, within 2 years, we had a Scottish Parliament. And that is the power of a movie, it's the power of a cultural event, and it was inspiring to me. And so when this came along, it was like, we've got to pay our homage at least to that and make the attempt, at least try to open it big and see if it becomes a wave which carries us towards the shores of independence.
Ah, that sounds good. What are your favorite places in Scotland, besides all those touristy spots?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place?
You?
Well, this is my first trip here, and
I literally a long run this morning.
I just got. Literally, my hair. I just got out of the shower from running all around Edinburgh.
Off the seat, right?
Yeah, I've been on the top of the highest point here.
Off the seat.
I mean, I don't know the names because I've just gotten here. I just ran to the top of the.
He ran to the top. Much of it at the hubble of it.
I've run to the sea over here. I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
I just literally must have run. I feel.
So
like
you ran to Leith. You ran up off the sea.
I feel like I just did 20
crazy
miles or something like that.
When we were filming, traveling through Glencoe,
yeah.
there's something about the enormity of both sides of the road, and in the movie we capture it with the family traveling out to safety and along the river, and just that area, and then off the beaten track towards the Isle of Skye, before you go over the bridge, just going these different directions and finding these locks and cliffs and mountain peaks.
I'm not going to tell you because then they'll become tourist
places.
And then it won't be nice and quiet and lonely anymore.
But everybody should do that Glencoe drive. It's beautiful. Head up to Isle of Skye, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I get to go to
Everybody does.
I get to go to Glasgow tomorrow.
Oh, Glasgow!
Yeah,
we can't wait.
I've never been there.
I can't wait to show.
It's quite different to Edinburgh, so.
That's what everyone tells me. I can't wait.
It's sold out very quickly in Glasgow, and we can't wait to party with those guys.
Wonderful. Since I'm from Germany, are there any plans? Are you already in talks with any distributors in Germany?
So what we wanted to do was have a real theatrical in Scotland with a full 4-month term, so that we can then build the interest to it. Because these days you have to be smart and do things outside of the box, particularly with theatrical. So we're building now. It will be in every country around the world. It's just the timing that we're trying to get right. And that's why we wanted the full theatrical window, so it's not suddenly on Netflix here and online here, and then you've got the problems with security and it just leaking all over the place. So it's a very stringent plan, but it will eventually be everywhere.
I'm looking forward to that. What are your next projects? Is there anything you can already talk about, all of you?
Well, unfortunately, in many of the elements of things that I'm involved with, I'm never allowed to talk about them until some PR rep comes in and tells me I'm allowed to start talking about them. So, there are a couple things in the works that are coming out, but I can't talk about them.
I have a script. I have the next section of this, which leads us to Bannockburn and the Declaration of Our Oath. So this does well, that's ready to go. As Hamlet says, the readiness is all. So when you have your downtime, you're getting ready for the next thing. I also have a story about how Scotland lost its independence 300 years after Robert the Bruce basically died. And that was in the Darien jungle in Panama. Big disaster which happened there. So that's which led us to the current moment where we're in this union.
You were just explaining that to me last night. And
yeah.
I was absolutely blown away that is. Because I asked him, the first thing I asked when I got here, I was like, hey, why is the English flag flying up there? Isn't it? I was like,
strictly speaking, it's not English. It's the English flag is the white and red.
The UK flag.
It's it's a combination of all of these.
But it was just like weird to me. I was like, am I in? It's all very touchy, and I don't want to.
Yeah, the interesting questions.
They're interesting questions. As an American, it's pretty
crumbling union.
Yeah. I'm building a western town in
Montana,
1860s western, huge backlot. I've always wanted to make a western, and so hopefully I'll be able to work on with these guys, and then
hope to ride into that town and do a couple 6-shooter actions.
And there are western elements of Robert the Bruce that we really wanted to embrace, the epic scenery and the expanse, because those guys are the old cowboys, riding off to save people.
That sounds all interesting, and I'm really looking forward to see that. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thanks for having
Good
us.
luck with the film.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Watch it, Germany.
Thanks so much. Thank you. That was really great.
Thanks very much.
You guys are great.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.